Hi everyone, hope you're doing good, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about... It's upside down. Oh, that's great. Hi everyone, hope you're doing good, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Trivium's The Crusade from 2006. And I've got the inspiration to make this video from my mate James, Mr. Boulder. He did a video back in December talking about underrated albums, and he showed this one, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, that is quite an underrated album, and you know, got my creative juices going, thinking that I could make a response video to that. But I have done a video like this in the past, the Euthanasia by Megadeth, where I've sort of talked about that, defended it, and I'm going to be doing the same with this, trying to get you people to check it out if you haven't, because I think it's great and gets overlooked. So before we get into it though, if you're new and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing for more guitar and rock and metal music content. Please share with anyone you think might like my content, and all feedback's massively appreciated. And thanks to everyone who's subbed already and for all the support. I really appreciate that. And now, without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. So to start off, I'm just going to go through some quick info about the album. So this is the band's third album. This one came after the very successful Ascendancy, and this was released on October the 10th, 2006 on Roadrunner Records. This album was written amazingly in 6 weeks, which I find pretty incredible. The album was a departure from the metalcore style found in Ascendancy, and this album has a bit more of a straightforward heavy metal with some thrash metal, some progressive metal elements coming into music. The band dropped the screaming vocals for clean singing, which sounds very similar to James Hetfield. That was just Matt's style at that time. The Crusade peaked at number 7 in the UK and was later certified silver, and it has also sold 100,000 copies in the United States. Now we're going to talk about some of the reasons why this album gets a lot of stick, a lot of hate, and might get overlooked by a lot of people. I'm going to start with an indirect quote that the guitarist and vocalist Matt Heafy has said about the album in the past, and the band at the time when they made the album. They went from the best metal band in the world with Ascendancy, you know, all over magazines and stuff, to then being dubbed the worst metal band in the world. And they were even hated at that time by their peers, you know, bands that they looked up to at the time. And Matt went on to say that it was a really hard time around that time, seeing like some of his idols, some of his music heroes laughing at him and mocking him for things that he said, and also due to the release of this album. So yeah, why is it hated so much? Firstly, it's a change in style from Ascendancy. As I said before, Ascendancy is more of a metalcore album, and this one is more of like a thrash metal, modern heavy metal style album. Not as commercial compared to Ascendancy, didn't do as well. The media didn't like the change, but at the time the media had a thing against Trivium because of something that Matt Heafy said. You know, they were always just gonna give this album a real bad rep, and they got the tagline "worst metal band," and you know, they got a lot of hate because of that. Another reason why people don't like this album, the lyrics are quite poor, and I kind of do agree with that to some extent. Some of the lyrics on the album are quite weak and, you know, a bit laughable at times even. You know, they're a bit pants. But when you understand what the songs are about, it kind of has a good meaning, and we'll probably get onto that a bit later. A lot of bands thought that they were copying other bands. It wasn't original. You know, the comparison to Metallica and Iron Maiden is very strong with this album. But you know, again, we'll get into that later, but I can see why people wouldn't like this album, calling them a Metallica clone. And also, just to point it out that even the band are not too fond of this album, you know, because of the around that time in their career and all the stuff that was going on through the media and stuff like that. Even they're not too fond of this album anymore, and you know, they don't really play songs from it. Matt hates a lot of the songs on the album, especially the Rising, but we'll get to that. And you know, also a lot of non-Trivium fans who don't like the band just also hate on this album just because they want to. Now we're going to go through the track listing. There's 13 tracks, as you can see kind of there. There are 13 tracks and it comes to about 57 minutes long. So yeah, track 1, Ignition. I really enjoy that song. It's a real fast, thrashy kind of song and sets the whole album up. Track 2, Detonation. I think that might be my favourite song on the album. I just really love how it just goes really thrashy, and then towards the end it's kind of got a bit more of a mellower, kind of softer thing going on. Entrance of the Conflagration next, track 3. That is an absolute banger. I love that song. Anthem, We're the Fire. That one gets a lot of hate. Again, the song is sort of a bit more about unity and everyone coming together. But I like that song because it sounds a lot like Iron Maiden. Next song, Unrepentant. That's a great song. Got a similar riff to Through the Never by Metallica, but still, I really enjoy that song. Really cool. Track 6, And Sadness Will See Her. That song is okay. It's alright. I could do without it though, to be honest. Track 7, Become the Dragon. Now that song is just really awesome. Like super thrashy. Really great guitar solo. Really cool like bass solo towards the end as well. Yeah, that song could easily have been on Shogun. Track 8, To the Rats. That's about as thrashy as you're going to get on this album. Super thrashy. I love the riffs all the way through, some really great guitar solos, and that song is basically, they did that song against the media, you know, To the Rats, the media, and then it starts to drop off a bit after that. This World Can't Tear Us Apart, it's alright, but skippable. Tread the Floods, that's a pretty cool song. I do enjoy that song. Contemporary to Contamination, that's another really great song. Thrashy, heavy, you know, got melodic bits in there as well. Track 12, The Rising, that's the song that gets the most amount of hate because it, you know, it doesn't really fit on the album. It kind of sounds more like a hard rock song than anything. And I remember people saying like that it sounds like Motley Crue, which I thought was quite funny. Yeah, not the best song, and even Matt hates that song. And the last song is an awesome instrumental, title track, The Crusade. 8-minute long, absolutely super monster song. You know, it's just an incredible instrumental and an excellent way to end the album. Now I'm going to just talk about some reasons why I enjoyed this album, and why I think it's really great, and why you should check it out, and just end with some final thoughts as well. So this album, Trivium are just going all out. You know, they don't give a crap about what anyone's going to say, what anyone thinks. They just do their own thing. You know, they really wear their influences on their sleeve with this album. And I don't think that's a bad thing because, you know, they've written some absolutely banging songs. And in the space of 6 weeks as well, I think that's unbelievable really. To write that amount of good quality in that short amount of time is absolutely insane. You know, they put a lot into this album, you know, tons and tons of riffs, tons of ideas, lots of twists and turns throughout the album, you know, different sounding songs, especially towards the second half of the album. It kind of goes a little bit Shogun-y in areas, which I like, because I love that album. The riffing and the guitar solos are absolutely incredible on here. Probably, if not the best, because on Shogun they do some fantastic solos as well, but on this album there's some unbelievable guitar solos as well. They just, as I said, they just go all out and just, don't give a shit really. They just absolutely rip the hell out of their instruments. The songwriting is really great, the musicianship is fantastic. Matt's vocals are really good, even though they do sound similar to James Hetfield. But I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy this album, and everyone's brilliant on this album. Corey, obviously, Paolo's bass playing as well, excellent. Travis Smith, I think he's such an underrated drummer. Their first couple of Trivium albums with Travis on the drums, just absolutely awesome. And yeah, so now into my final thoughts. If you've never listened to this album, I recommend you check it out, just because I think it's fantastic. And if you're into thrash metal, if you're into like traditional heavy metal, or even like modern heavy metal, I think you'd enjoy this album. And yeah, especially if you're not a fan of the band or you've never listened to this album, I think it would be a really good start-off point for a lot of people, as I said, who's into thrash metal and like heavy metal as well. This and Shogun, I think, would be a really good like start-off point for you. And I just think this album's brilliant. I put it at number 3 in my Trivium ranking for a reason, because I can't really hardly fault it. I mean, apart from a couple of tracks here and there, some songs are not so great, but overall I think it's a brilliant album. And if you don't like this album, I think you should definitely try it again, because there's enough there that anyone, I think, or a lot of people would enjoy this album. So yeah, hopefully I've convinced you to check it out. So that was my video talking about Trivium's The Crusade and defending it. I'd love to know what you think of this album, whether you like it or you don't. Have I convinced you to check it out, and have I changed your opinion on it? I'd love to know that, because that would bring me a lot of happiness. And also, if you want to find out more around the story around this album and the whole Trivium being hated around that time, I'll leave some links in the description to some videos and some articles as well talking about it, if you'd like to know a bit more about it. And if you got this far, thanks ever so much for watching, really appreciate it, and until the next time, keep it metal.